As the bids fly in quickly increasing increments of yen, an unlikely observer lurks in the crowd at Tokyo's Tsukiji fish market. Martin Cruz Smith, best known as the best-selling author of Gorky Park and Red Square, is here watching the giant tuna come up for auction.
And then when they pull off the tarp, can't you half believe that there's going to be a dead body?
As a writer of suspense, Smith has buried bodies in Russia and Cuba. But this time, his backdrop is Japan, at a critical point in history. On the eve of the attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. The roguish hero of Smith's new novel, December 6th, is Harry Niles, the son of American missionaries.
He grows up in the streets of Japan and speaks perfect idiomatic Japanese, who thinks in very much a Japanese way. What would it be like for him as an adult in Tokyo the days before Pearl Harbor? What did he think was going on?
Japanese is spoken best when it's not spoken at all. You understand, Harry, because you are a thief, and thieves are good observers. You'll never be Japanese, but I would bet that in a dark room, you could fool anyone. Writing December 6th was a 2.5-year adventure for Smith. To begin with, he didn't speak the language.
I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I profoundly don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, when we visited Smith at his home overlooking San Francisco Bay, he was still at work on the novel, the completed chapters hanging neatly from hooks up the stairs to his office.
So I decided to make it visually accessible. So each of these is a different chapter.
It looks like you're hanging your chapters out to dry here.
Yes, yes, I like that. I like the idea that they're photographs being held up to dry.
Beside his desk, Smith had spread maps of 1941 Tokyo across the walls and tacked up period photographs, circling anything or anyone that intrigued him.
But in other words, you say to yourself, who was she?
Yeah.
If you were going to walk in that door and talk to her, what would she say? What I'm trying to get across to myself here is as if this were a film rather than a still photo. As if everybody, I've captured them for a moment, but if I can just think about it the right way, they'll start to move. You know, and that's what I'm after.
Yeah.
But so much of the world Smith was trying to bring back to life was destroyed during the war.
What I did was I went back to Tokyo and tried to find pre-war Tokyo. And it's not easy.
Enter Ted Van Dorn, who would become Smith's guide and literally lead the writer into a vanished world.
You buy a fortune there. In every shrine or temple they have this.
An American born of Dutch and Japanese parents, Van Dorn grew up in pre-war Tokyo.
This is supposed to be a Navy zero.
Smith's hero, Harry Niles, was modeled in part on Van Dorn, who, like Harry, was treated as an outsider, but still empathized with the Japanese.
And most of this is devoted to the kamikaze.
Yes.
Van Dorn led Smith to the most potent link to Japan's military past, the Yasukuni War Shrine.
So many Japanese just disappeared in the war.
Missing in action.
Missing in action. This is the only place now where these families can come and make any connection.
Exactly.
Emperor Hirohito was an occasional visitor to the shrine. In December 6th, Harry Niles comes here too, as he tries to dodge Japanese gangsters, the Tokyo police, and the intrigue of Japan on the edge of war with the West. Even this situation now seemed strangely inevitable. He had watched kabuki all his life, and finally had a role. Exit pursued by samurai. Only there was no exit. Martin Cruz Smith was born Martin William Smith, Bill to his friends. He added the Cruz as an intriguing pen name. In fact, his background is intriguing.
My father was a jazz musician.
His mother was part Pueblo Indian.
She became a jazz singer, a ballad singer in New York, along with my father who played the sax. And so I can't hear jazz without it being a family noise, a family sound. Where's the baby?
She's upstairs. I'll go get her.
Smith and his wife Emily are grandparents now. For Bill Smith, who'll turn 60 next month, it's been a long road. He was a reporter briefly after college.
What did I do? I was a good humor man for a while. That was
You went from being a reporter to being a good humor man?
Yeah, I made more as a good humor man. And I had my truck, I had my cap, I had my bow tie, and my bell. You know, I'd ring my bell, I made quite a lot of money as a good humor man. I discovered that one of the things I could do, besides sell stories, is sell popsicles.
Under a variety of aliases, Smith would write dozens of pulp novels. But his career really changed when
I got a contract to write this Russian book.
the book was the 1981 blockbuster Gorky Park, the story of a triple murder in Moscow's socialist playground, and the Russian detective Arkady Renko who solves it.
Bodies carved up in the middle of Moscow. Who knows where it could lead?
The book's phenomenal success even led to a Hollywood movie.
You weren't surprised by the success of Gorky Park?
No.
Were in any?
That's terrible to say.
No.
But I just, you know, it was such an obvious idea.
But the communists were not amused. Smith was blacklisted by the Soviet Union.
I could not get back in at that point. I was persona non grata. So what I did was I found this piece of Russia floating around the Bering Sea in this factory ship, Soviet factory ship. I worked my way onto that.
The ship was the Sulak out of Vladivostok. Smith somehow charmed the captain, and his brief stay aboard became the basis for Polar Star, Renko's next adventure. Renko returned again in Red Square and even went to Cuba in Havana Bay. But Smith has abandoned his Russian hero for long periods over the years. A writer, he says, has to keep himself interested.
His writing is so boring. I mean, it is, you know, you're up there alone, nobody's there. And sometimes you kind of swivel around just to see if anybody showed up. No one ever shows up. It's just you. So, you know, if you aren't really fascinated by it, it's not going to happen.
But after his diverting journey to pre-war Japan, Smith says he can feel his curiosity being tugged in a familiar direction.
I've been away from Russia too long. I really am curious to see what's happening.
Once again, Martin Cruz Smith can feel the presence of Arkady Renko lurking over his shoulder.
You know, I can feel him sort of pacing, you know, smoking cigarettes and pacing. When is he going to be done with this Japanese book and we can get back to work?